Hey friends, welcome back to my series on the Canon M6 Mark II. My name's Peter Faciano. In this week's video, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I took a Frankenstein setup like this and turned it into a photo like this using the burst mode on the Canon M6 Mark II. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's video. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're in camera icon 1 down to raw burst mode. You want to go ahead and enable this. So just go ahead and scroll down to raw burst mode, click on enable, and you're going to want the pre-shooting enabled as well. Now once you have everything all set up, you're going to notice in the top left you'll see a number 34, and that just means you have 34 shots. You have your pre-buffer going, and the next thing you know, just push on the shutter, drop your object. And from this point forward, you just do this over and over and over again until you get the right shot. Once you think you've got your shot, then you're going to want to head and push your menu item. You'll see a bunch of files. Click on that. This will open up all the files that you just took a picture of. Scroll through until you find the specific frame that you think is going to work for your shot. So I've dropped the knife 3 times, and I'm just going to scroll through each individual section until I find a shot that I like. Once I find a shot that I like, I want to extract that individual frame. In the top right, just click Set, Extract as a raw file. I'm going to save it as a new file. Now I want to take a look at it, so I'm just going to click on that extracted raw file image. And that's it. All of your data from your previous files are still there, so if you scroll through, everything's there, but you also have your extracted photo, which is right there. From this point on, now we just need to throw it into Lightroom and show you how I processed it. Alright, so before I get this loaded up onto Lightroom, I just need to give credit to Peter McKinnon. Obviously, this is not my creation. This is something that I saw him do, and on one of his videos, he was shooting, I think, with the 1DX, and he said that it was shooting at 12 frames per second, and I thought, the Mark II shoots at 30 frames per second on raw burst mode, so I thought I would reenact what he did, and this is my final product. So a few more things about the raw burst mode that you need to know before we actually get into the editing is the Mark II has a 32 megapixel sensor, and when you're shooting in raw burst mode, it's going to scale back to about 20 megapixels, so you're not going to get that high quality as you normally would with a regular like 14 frames per second. And it's a little bit difficult to track a moving object, so for my purposes, what I ended up doing with dropping the knife is I pre-focused at a specific depth of field to make sure that I kind of, had a little bit of leeway to play with, so I didn't have to worry about autofocus on the camera itself. And that was easy for me to do because all I ended up doing was using the focus peaking, and I just stuck my hand in the water and I used the focus peaking to get my hand in focus to where I thought I was going to drop the knife, and then just went from there. So looking at Lightroom, this is my final image, and I'm going to show you what it used to look like compared to what I edited it as. I'm going to go ahead and reset it to the original. That's my original photo, and that is my final product. So let me run through here really quick and show you what I did. All right, so now that I have this in Lightroom, I'm going to go ahead and correct a couple of things right off the bat. I want to remove the chromatic aberration and the lens correction. That'll go ahead and straighten it out a little bit. I'm going to start at the top and just work my way down. My exposure, I want to decrease my exposure. I want to make it a little bit darker. So somewhere around -1 looks good. My contrast, I want to go ahead and increase that to around 40. As I increase the contrast, you'll start to notice that it gets a little bit darker around the edges, which will eventually start to eliminate some of the imperfections or the water bubbles that are in there, or the air bubbles that are in there. My highlights, just want to reduce just a little bit, somewhere around -8. Shadows, on the other hand, I want to darken the shadows completely so it will hide a lot of the air bubbles. So right now this is at +100. If I drop this all the way down to -100, it kills a lot of the air bubbles. I want to boost my whites up to about 32. I want to crush my blacks, drop those down to about -26. That again is also going to darken the background as well. I'm going to leave my temperature alone, my tint alone. I'm going to add about 5 to my vibrance and 5 to my saturation. I'm not going to mess with any of the color channels here, but I am going to increase my texture to about 23 or so. I'm not going to touch clarity and dehaze. I'm going to increase dehaze. It looks like it darkens it a little bit, which is also going to help out on the background. My dehaze, I'm going to go around 28 or... My vignette is going to take a lot of the imperfections around the corners away, so I want to drop my vignette to 100, and that's going to mask a lot of the air bubbles. That way it's going to help me out in post when I start to work on my healing brush. The healing brush, you want to zoom in. It's going to help out a little bit. Once you have the healing brush, set your size, and from here it's just a matter of being patient and healing out all of the small, tiny little air bubbles that you can see. Now, I'm not going to sit here and do this entire thing. I'm just going to go ahead and go back to my original. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. I hope you guys like this. Do all those things: like, subscribe, share, comment down below, turn on that bell notification. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was pretty fun to do. I didn't think I was going to end up with a product just like this. I thought it was going to be a little bit worse than it actually is. And obviously I'm no professional in Lightroom, and I'm not a professional photographer in any way. I just thought it would be interesting to see how the raw burst mode works on the Canon M6 Mark II. So with all that, I'll go ahead and see you guys next week.